There we go. Should be coming in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See if it's working. There he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Burt Watson in the house. We
What's up,
rolling, baby?
All night long, we rolling, baby.
How you doing, Burt? How's everything going with you up there in Philly during this time?
Everything's good. I mean, you know, it's like anything. You know, when something's going on and there's medical advice and legal advice, you follow it. You do what you're supposed to do. It's always different. You know, there's always a difference. And right now, it's just everything in Philly is kind of basically shut down. I'm wearing, you know, I sometimes want to social distance right here at home with my wife.
I completely understand.
But we both, we both have to be careful.
Yeah.
You know, you have to wear a mask when you go out. You have to wear a mask in any facilities, grocery store, CVS, or anything like that. You know, but it's just an adjustment. We've been in now, 43, 44 days, like everybody else. But it's all good. I'm just hoping and praying that, you know, I follow the news and follow just about a lot of it, and I see medically they've got a grip on it.
Yeah.
So, you know, they've got an understanding of it. And when there's an understanding, you know, you fight a war a lot better.
Absolutely. 100%. Let me start with, I just wanted to ask you, Burt, how did you get started in becoming good friends with Joe Frazier in the boxing world?
Oh man, I met Joe twice on two humbugs.
Two humbugs.
You know, the first time I met him in New York on the street, and we kind of exchanged and was talking, and we kind of exchanged numbers, and kind of never really heard from him, and then got back into Philadelphia. And Joe had a limousine service that he ran, and my niece got married, and as a gift to my niece, a radio personality gave her the limo for her wedding.
Wow.
So I'm at my mom's house in Philadelphia, and the house I grew up in, and, you know, the limo shows up to pick up my niece, and my nephew comes in the house, and he says, "Oh, the limousine's outside, you know, and the guy is outside waiting, and he told me to come in and get you." So I said, "Well, you go and you tell the guy to park the limo. We'll be out there in a minute."
Yeah.
So my nephew did that, and he came back in. He said, "You know, that limo driver looks like Joe Frazier."
No.
Just kind of randomly like that. So I said, "Well, you go tell that Joe Frazier looking limo driver to park that limo, and we'll be out there in a minute." So I said, "You know what, better yet, I'll go out there myself." And I went outside, and that's who it was.
Wow.
He was driving. He came into the gym, and, you know, as I started working with him a little later, I kind of saw how things kind of worked out with Joe. And he had an easel on a work board where drivers would come in and pick up and sign in.
Wow.
And he came in and picked it up and noticed that the driver that had my niece's wedding on the plate wasn't there. I don't know whether he was drunk or whatever, but he didn't show up. So Joe got in the car and drove it himself. And that is the person that Joe Frazier was. Yeah. You know, that's the person he was, not only with me and me becoming a part of the organization, but as I worked with him.
Yeah.
And I became more active with him after his real, you know, the boxing career, because at that time, most of the people weren't allowing us to have that kind of friendship.
Yeah.
You know, you couldn't get real close. And, but we kept kind of contact a little bit here and there, which was hard.
Yeah.
Because back in them days, son, we ain't had cell phones. Okay. We had word of mouth. If somebody say, "I'll see you next Tuesday at 5 o'clock," they were there next Tuesday at 5
at 5 o'clock,
regardless of where it was. But, you know, we connected and kind of stuck together, and that, the way he treated me and the way he showed up kind of unexpectedly for that wedding. Oh, I see someone I know by the name of Feisty. What's up, baby? How you doing? And she's all the way in Brazil, man, and I know that for a fact.
How you doing, Feisty?
But the way that he reacted to me was the way he reacted to everybody, all the fans, the people around him. It was really easy to see how he became Joe Frazier. And my job with him was to create situations for him and to create business on his name. Well, he already had that name, Joe Frazier, so that wasn't a tough thing to do.
Not at all.
But it was tough, shout outs to Brazil, it was tough if he wasn't that kind of a person to be as open. I mean, Joe and I used to run around to different neighborhood bars where we would walk in and people would be sitting on the stool with their hat cocked to the side. And not that it was style, but that's just the way it was.
Yeah.
You know, a little wig twisted. And they look up and see me and Joe walk in. Well, they automatically knew who he was, but also thought they were drunk.
Yeah.
Okay? You know, that you know, here's Joe Frazier in my gym. Nah, no way. But there he was in the bar, and that was the way he was. So I started with him, and that led to places and things in my life that, you know, would have never happened if I didn't get to meet him. You know, I got to meet Nelson Mandela one-on-one.
I was gonna ask you about that. I was gonna be my follow-up question. And
because of Joe Frazier.
Yeah.
One-on-one, you know. Nelson Mandela, Mr. Mandela, when he got out of prison, he was an avid boxing fan. In fact, he was a boxer himself, but he was an avid boxing fan. And when he got out of prison, the two things he wanted to do was, one, to meet Joe Frazier, and two was to meet Muhammad Ali, or vice versa, in whatever order. And somehow they got in touch with the office, and I got the phone call. And he was in New York at the United Nations building, and our invitation was to go there to see him.
Yeah.
So in Joe's office, in the back of the office, which was where we sat and had our little shots, did our little thing, and I'm still having my little shots of Grand Marnier, so you remember that, son.
I remember that.
Was his belt. You know, from March 8th, 1971 was that belt. And Joe said, let's just take that belt. So we drove up, him being the Joe Frazier that he is, we drove to New York, to the United Nations building. When we got there, then he really turned into Joe Frazier because the police escorts and everybody took us downstairs. And we were downstairs in the room waiting. And we were there for like about 20 minutes. And in comes Nelson Mandela. By himself, man. And I just told you that, look,
it's so,
I mean, for me, you know, he just walked in the room and he was as great and as cordial as, you know, I mean, I can't even explain. But that was also the second time. That was the first time that I got to meet him. I got to meet him again. You know, Don King was there. Tyson was there.
Oh. Connect.
King Tyson, Sugar Ray Leonard, they were all there, but that was a highlight. I mean, you know, I got to meet Madonna through Joe Frazier, Mickey Rourke, Elizabeth Taylor, Richie Burton, those guys you don't know. But, you know, and also Joe had at the time, when I started with him, we were running the gym, and I was running the gym and running his operations at the time. He also had 6 relatives that were actively boxing. Tyrone Frazier, Marvis, Joe Jr., Mark, Anthony, and Tay. And then Chandler Durham. And Chandler Durham was the son of Yank Durham, who was the original trainer. And all of them were in the gym training at the same time. So, you know, it's, you know, I suggested, and we had the Blue Horizon right down the street. I see somebody on here wants a Philly cheesesteak. Gino's, baby, that's the best place to go. They asked me that. So we did a couple of shows at the Blue Horizon, and of course, me being the guy in charge, Joe said, okay, let's go. Let's go to the Blue Horizon. So I said, okay. So we went to the Blue Horizon. He said, okay. I said, okay. And I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me. He's looking at me as if to say, well, go get it done. So I had to go do that. So that's when I really, really started, because when Joe decided he wanted to do boxing,
Yeah.
then I had to create a situation to get that done. I had to be the guy.
Yeah.
I had to be the person to coordinate and put all that stuff together, and I did that. And that's what led to eventually meeting Don King, Cedric Kushner, Lou Duva, and getting to work with Mike Tyson and Hector Camacho and Julio Cesar Chavez, Tito Trinidad, the Klitschko brothers, Roberto Duran, you name it. The only person I never worked with in some capacity was Lennox Lewis.
Lennox Lewis.
But
any specific reason?
Say it again.
Any specific reason you didn't work with Lennox Lewis?
Probably number one, because we were basically based more so in the United States than we were outside. Lennox Lewis did most of his stuff initially outside, and Joe just didn't. Joe Frazier was more afraid of flying, bro, than I am.
Wow.
And I am. Every time I get on a flight, I pop something and
make sure you.
Well, I pop something, I do that, then I take a shot of Grand Marnier, and I'm good. But Joe was so afraid of flying that we drove every place.
Wow.
Which was, he would get in the car in a minute, and we'd have an event in Florida. Now, we lived in Philly.
Yeah.
That was one heck of a drive from Philly to Florida, or Philly to South Carolina, or North Carolina, or
East Coast,
or wherever, man. And the only place he didn't drive was if we had to go to California. And that was horrible, sitting on the plane with Joe Frazier for 5 hours. Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't
afraid to fly. But that eventually led to me, and Michael Spinks, and I've got to meet Michael Spinks and Butch Lewis, and Butch Lewis asked me to help him with Michael's fights, and that's when I got involved with Tyson, and I did Tyson's against Buster Mathis here in Philadelphia, and one thing just led to another, and I became pretty good at what I did. I learned how to master it because I enjoyed it.
Yes.
And the people that I worked with never told me how to do it. They always let me do what I did best, and it just kind of escalated, man. And I ended up doing Oscar De La Hoya fights and a couple of others. And I somehow, and I don't remember how, but I think I ran into a guy by the name of Tom Loeffler. No, I'm sorry. It was Mike Akery.
Okay.
And Mike Akery told me, listen, man, I got these guys that are coming over, and I finally got a venue in Florida. So I'm going to bring you in, and I want you to do this. And I said, fine. And my saying at that time was, you pay me and respect me, you got me, and you got me forever. Plain and simple. So he brought me in, and it was the Klitschko brothers. And that was their US debut, Vladimir and Vitaly Klitschko. I did about 8 or 9 fights with those boys, and so I was very fortunate through Joe Frazier to get to meet that. And finally, it just got to a point where things got so busy, and I started traveling and moving a little more. And Joe said, you know what, if that's what's working, let's just kind of keep that going.
Yeah.
So I stuck with that, and, ended up kind of, it got a little tiring because I was running back and forth. And I did Gaddy, Arturo Gaddy and De La Hoya. And I did that fight, and there was another fight that I had in Vegas, which was the following week. So a promoter hired me to stay out there and to do that fight for him at the MGM Grand. So I did that. And that promoter said to me, you know what? I got a guy that started this organization. I don't know exactly what it is, but he started it, and he needs good people. And he said, I told him about you, and he wants to meet you. Now, this was in between the weigh-in of the fight.
Okay.
So he brought the guy in during the weigh-in because it was the only time that I had free. And the guy was Dana White.
Ah, wow.
And he
Wow.
brought him in and he introduced him to me.
That's when he had hair, though, right?
Yeah, he had hair. He was thin. He was young, and for me, I mean, Dana was young and thin and probably most, stereotypically, most of your established promoters were older young men, were older white men, older men who were established. And you see this young guy comes along, first of all, you want to know, well, where's the money coming from? And that was just, but you don't ask those kind of things.
Yeah.
But I gave him that Burt. You pay me and respect me, and you got me. And he said, you know what, I'm going to try to do something. And this was in October of, and don't quote me on this because, I got a lot of shit up in there. It was 99 or 2000, because that was in October. He called me in January and said, I got a fight next month. Can you get it done?
Yeah.
Pay me, respect me, you got it.
And done.
And I got it done.
And what fight was that?
That was UFC 30.
UFC 30, and the main event of that card was
I think it was Randy Couture and Chuck Liddell, or Randy was the main event and Chuck was the co-main event. Either way, that was the first fight that I did. And the next one was UFC 31 at the same place in Atlantic City.
Yeah.
Now, I had no idea about mixed martial arts and grappling. I knew who Bruce Lee and Bruce Leroy. Okay, that's as much as I knew. Bruce Lee and Bruce Leroy.
Bruce Leroy.
I really didn't know anything about it, but I was never told to totally know exactly what it was, but I was asked to do what I do the best.
Yeah. And
to get it done the best way I knew how, and to put them on a platform to continue at that level. And that's exactly what I did. Wow. I went in and Dana just kind of gave it to me, and
you handled it from there.
I handled it from there. Yes, sir.
Yes. And that was going to be first of all, thank you so much for that incredible story. That was unbelievable. And a lot of things that I didn't even know, even researching and certain things, there's a lot of depth there that I did not know. And I appreciate you sharing that information. That's history.
Oh, it's my pleasure, baby. My pleasure. And you know what? Today, in today's world, you can't lie, baby, because they can Google everything.
Everything.
They can Google a lie.
Yeah.
Okay. So you gotta really, really, when you say something, today's world, you better come correct, baby, because
absolutely. I do not report anything unless I know wholeheartedly it's a fact. And then I will give you that news.
Yeah, and you're one of the few, because everybody don't give all the facts, baby.
No, they do not give all the facts, and I try to do that as much as I can.
Yeah.
But Burt, so what do you think is the biggest difference from when you first started with the UFC and then your later days with the UFC? Like the difference, you would say?
Well, the biggest difference is the traveling, the fact that they expanded so quickly.
Yeah.
But I also knew from my initial working with, I learned how to work with fighters and venues and people that worked with me because they needed to know that you respected them as much as you respected yourself.
Yeah.
So if you gave it to them, they gave it back to you. And I knew from the beginning the way that Dana was running, and the way he never questioned what I did or questioned me, I knew that thing had legs.
Yeah.
I didn't know it had tentacles, okay? But I knew it had legs. So when I prepared an event or prepared for an event, I prepared the event so that when it got legs or tentacles, I could handle it, baby, because I knew I was pulling that plow. And, I think the first year there were 5 events. I think it was 5, and then it escalated to 10, and then 15, and then 20. And my last year, I think it was between 35 and 40 events. Wow. And I did every single event from 2001 until
2006, 16 or
15,
15.
yeah,
Yeah.
2000 until about 2015. Every one of them. And that was Ultimate Fighters, when they acquired the WEC, and there was one other organization that they acquired.
Strike Force.
Strike Force, and
Yeah.
they combined all that stuff. But, you know, the difference, as it started to grow, it started to get acceptance with various commissions and various venues and various states. You know, initially, you know, and Dana had finances behind him because he had pretty good partners in Lorenzo and Frank Fertitta. But we started to grow, and we started to actually follow the NBA, bruh. And when I say follow the NBA, I meant we started to follow those arenas. Wherever the NBA was, that's where we were.
You were at the same time. That's awesome.
Or at the same arena, you know. And at that point, it was like, damn, you know, this plow's getting heavy.
Yeah.
But you know what? I had to structure it where, you know, it's not always the smarter man who knows it all, but the man who knows where to find it, baby. And, you know, if I can put my hand on it, I got you.
Yeah.
If I don't have to think like you to outthink you. So with that, we just kind of went on from one venue to another, and it just kind of grew and it grew. And as it grew, the rules grew, the acceptance of the audience grew. And I mean, I went from boxing to MMA, back to boxing, back to MMA, but they were two different worlds, man.
Yeah.
It was, and one thing that the UFC and MMA always did, which I can tell you was the greatest thing that they ever did, was from the beginning, they made the athletes available to the fans.
Yes, I agree 100% with that.
They did not hide, and I knew that because I just came from boxing.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, baby. When I did Mike Tyson or Oscar De La Hoya or Holyfield or something like that, if everybody in that circle didn't know who I was, I didn't get in there.
Wow.
But that's how they secretly kept everybody away from the major stars. With the UFC and MMA, and they didn't do that.
Yeah.
They let them go. And that, you know, it helped them grow. You know, I went to a boxing event. I would do a boxing event, and you would get a bout sheet, which would have maybe 11 fights on there. Now, this is boxing. You got 11 fights. The only person that you knew on there was maybe the main event and the co-main event.
The co-main event, correct.
Those other 9 fights, you had no idea who they were.
Yeah, still to this day, I feel.
But then when you came to an MMA event and they got in there and you had a bout sheet with 12 people, they knew everybody on that sheet. They knew their grandmama's name. They knew their Aunt Kizzy. They knew Aunt Lizzie. They knew everything they needed to know about everybody.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that paid off, and it caught on because they all became stars.
Yeah.
At the same time, which to me was, because I'm a fighter person, baby. I believe in making it as comfortable as you can. And I'll say this to you, which I very seldom. I made it a concerted effort when I saw, and I won't say who.
Yeah.
When I saw how fighters and boxers were being treated back in the day, I made an effort to say, I will never let that happen to another fighter again.
Wow.
Would never. I had a kid, you know, back in the day, they were making maybe $75 to $100 a round. You know, a guy would travel from California to Philadelphia to fight a 4-round fight and got $400.
Wow.
And I did a fight with somebody who was a little vice versa, where I did it in California, and the fighter came from, I think, Chicago to California to do the fight, 4-round fight. He got $400, and they took his medical money out of it.
Wow.
Homeboy ended up with $85.
Wow.
And true story, And I said, you know what, man, I'll never let this happen again. I will never let that happen. And the guy came to me. He said, Mr. Burt, you know, this is all the money I got, man. I can't even get home. So I made a concerted effort to pay attention to fighters and what they said and how they felt. And I always tell a fighter, if it's up here, I want it right here, baby.
Yep.
If it's in here, especially if it's in here, I want it right here.
Yep.
The only stupid question is the one you don't ask.
Facts. And I remember seeing you say that to them in the back.
You remember seeing me say that, huh?
Yeah, when there would be UFC embedded, and they would go to you, and you're talking to the fighters, and you're always making sure it's right here. I want it right here. That's
yeah. Well, that was real, and I knew that, and I looked them in the face when I said that. Boy, and I'm gonna tell you, they did it. They gave it to me, and some stuff I was like, man, I don't need to hear that.
But you opened that door for it, so they did it.
You know what? I needed to hear it because what it did, it gave them a comfort level.
Yes.
To say, you know what? I'm gonna go to Burt.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take it to Burt. Well, a lot of other people did the same thing. You know, we would do an event, and you know, the big media, you know, the media would always be chasing the fighters, always wanting the fighters to do things. And they would call me, Mr. Burt. When they started with that, it wasn't Burt, it was Mr. Burt. You know, we got a such and such in about 10 minutes, man, and I can't find, you know who, I ain't gonna tell you the names.
Yeah.
I can't find, and I say, you know what, bro? That's not a marker I want to call in. I said, you gonna have to handle that. So I would get off the phone, and then I would call the fighter. I say, look, man, where the hell you at? Because they looking for you and they bugging me. And we can't have that.
Can't have that happen.
And you know what?
Done.
They were gone. But I didn't call that marker in with that fighter. Yeah. I called it in, and I'd call them, and they would end up and they would go. But you know, they respected that. And it allowed me into a lot of places they didn't let a lot of other people, man. Yeah. And still do to this day. As they should. To this day. I got a little series now that I just started, and I'm just learning how to work with this thing, man. I have no idea. Legend to legend. I see it. I watch it. Legend to legend. Yes, sir. I love it. And I did Vito Belfort, and then I did George St. Pierre, and I got someone else coming up. First one I didn't tape because I didn't know I needed to tape it. Yeah, I got to take out there. Hey, everything's a learning process. I'm learning, and I got a couple of other nice ones coming up that I'm going to do that. And what that is finally a time now that I get an opportunity to sit and talk to the guys like I'm talking to you now. Yes. Because I never got that opportunity. When I talk to them, most of the time it was to help them with something, help them get somewhere, tell them what was going on, or tell them what to do. Yeah. You know, and now, conversation. Yeah. Now, you know, I sat with George St. Pierre the other day, man. Amazing interview. I watched the whole thing. That was the first time I'd ever had an opportunity to sit like that. And he told me, if you saw the interview, he done. Yep. I said, you done? He said, I'm done. But I get now to do that, and I hope to continue. I'm going to continue that. I'm going to continue to make it a little better and reaching out to guys, you know, and I hate to call on them, but, you know. Hey, it's a good time for it. Everybody's secluded, you know, home, and I feel like there's more time to do this in this time period. And why not learn that information or about those fighters or their favorite fights or what they're doing in this day and age. And what they're really doing, because I don't want to sit down and have a conversation necessarily about your career. Yeah. I want to talk to them about things that they haven't talked to others about, in the way, you know, that they got family. And I spoke to I didn't know Vitor had a son that was 17 years old playing football. You know, I'm sure a lot of other people didn't know that, you know, and things about George that, you know, and I got another one, like I said, coming up within the next week or so, and I'm going to post mine first. And then, absolutely.
Make sure, make,
I'm gonna put it out there, man.
you got to make sure you save it. We got to see that because those interviews are just
Man,
amazing.
let me tell you something. I now got 3 people videoing it.
Wow.
I'm gonna make sure of that. You know what? I didn't know, and people around me, some people didn't tell me.
Yeah.
You know. So I don't ever claim to know what I don't know, bro.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna claim to know what I don't know, and I'm never gonna lie.
You've always been super honest about everything that you've done.
Shit, man. Those 2 things will bite you quick and hard. You know?
And I think about that for me as I'm pursuing this career into MMA to make sure that I'm as truthful as possible in everything that I do.
As possible.
Yeah.
And always know that respect is the best thing that you can give to anybody.
Right.
And I'm gonna tell you something, man. Fighters are like children.
Yeah.
You know, it is on different areas.
Yeah.
Okay. When I say they're like children, they're like your children, my children. When you have children, you know the one you can leave home with matches and the one you can't.
Yeah.
Okay. Or the one you know not to give a match to because he's gonna give it to that one to strike it. Okay.
I love that analogy.
But again, like children, because your best judge of characters are children and animals.
Yeah.
If somebody comes in my house, and I don't have a dog, or I don't have any little children, but I have grandchildren. But if somebody comes around me and that dog or one of my grandchildren doesn't, something ain't right. I can't see it, but they can almost smell it.
That's 100% true.
That's the way you and media and people that are aspiring to do what you do.
Yeah.
And I was okay to do this, man, because I'm always eager to help.
I appreciate it so much. I appreciate it like big time.
I'm eager to help. You just when you get wherever you headed, and I come and ring that doorbell, you better answer it.
Oh, I will come outside to greet you. Make sure I put that red carpet out so you walk right inside with no issue.
Well, I'll take a shot of Grand Marnier and you can keep the carpet.
Absolutely. All right. I'll do that. I got 2 shots for you. One for you, one for me. Absolutely.
Okay.
Burt, one last question before I let you go, and thank you so much once again for this interview. You actually answered a lot of questions that I had, and I didn't even have to ask them. You were just that mind is amazing. Is amazing. Do you think that the Ultimate Fighting Championship will get that Fight Island going? Like, you think it's possible for it to really happen? And do you think that it's okay for MMA to be having an event during this global pandemic?
Number one, I do think that it could happen and it will happen because MMA has become a global sport. Mm-hmm. It's become a sport that not only is it global, but it makes a lot of money. Yeah. And it's very lucrative for television and promoters. And it's also a very good product. Yeah. So when you have those combinations, it's very easy to sell that. It's very easy to make that happen. That whether it's UFC, Bellator, PFL, I don't want to forget anybody, and even on a regional level, when you got a good MMA right now is hot as fist grease, baby. Yeah. And I think you know how hot fist grease can get.
It's very hot.
Yeah, it's very hot. So when it's like that and you get a good product and them boys can fight and they all put on good shows, then I don't see nothing but success for that. Yeah. Now, as far as what's going on right now and the capabilities, I do know that everybody there is being tested. And I do know that they're making it very public how they do it because I've seen more of them get hurt in their nose than a little bit. Yeah. So I know that they're taking care to do that. So you can only be but so careful, but you can be very, very cautious and very, very smart in what you do. Yes. So I do know that, and I do know the amount of people that they're letting. They're being very careful and very cautious with what they're doing. Yeah. The WWE. I don't particularly watch the WWE, but I watch sports. Yeah. And I know that they are doing they've done over the last month or month and a half, they've done their shows to no audiences.
Yeah, to no audience, correct. Yep.
Just inside. And you know what? If you're a fan, you're going to watch it. But I do know that, and not just because I spent 15 years with the UFC, I do know that they care about those fighters and that they care about safety. And I've been a part of that. I've been a part of putting that system together.
Yeah.
And that system is still in place, baby.
Yeah, you made it. You created it.
And I know that testing is one of the, I mean, the things that we put guys, you know, and I don't want to out guys, but you know, sometimes we had fighters who were past the age of 30, you know. When those guys came on, man, we took extra step in testing those guys.
Yeah.
You know, and you can look up the names and know who they were, but we took extra steps in making that happen. As far as the island, they got the finances to do it.
True. Very true.
When you have the financial resources to make the impossible happen,
make it happen.
You know, like I said, it's not always the smarter man who knows it all, but the man who knows where to find it.
Yep.
Yeah. And I've done shows with them where we've done shows on an Army base where operationally, backstage or behind the scenes, there was not a lot of pretty stuff.
Yeah.
But you had to make it happen. And it was very easy for me to get 3 fights in one position, 3 fights in another position, 3 fights, and switch them out. Wow. And switch them off at a time without them bumping into each other, without them killing or knocking over each other. I learned how to do that. So I know they know how to do that.
Yeah.
And the resources are there to go out and purchase an island someplace to get it. It is no different than them doing a fight in Japan.
Yeah.
Or I'd go to sleep in China and wake up in Chicago. Wow. Go to sleep in Chicago and wake up in Brazil. Ooh. That was the kind of schedule. So for them to be able to find a place that they can do it without a lot of international stuff or going in, I think they can do it. They got the resources to do it, and they know how to do it from a health standpoint. I just, in my head, it's just, you know, you say, well, how are they going to get the fans or where the fans are going to come from? But you know what? They'll make that happen.
Yeah, I agree.
Realistically and from a safe point, they can do it.
They can do it. Yeah, and Dana White is the guy who says if he's going to say he's going to make something happen, he makes it happen.
Well, he don't believe in being wrong.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And you know what? When you do what you say you're going to do,
yeah,
and the way you say you're going to do it, then you have no problem in saying shit that others may think is way off the roof.
Yeah. Because
you know what you can do, and you know that you can make it happen. But thank you, man, for your time and the opportunity.
No, thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate it so much. Just like I said, I'll have that Grand Marnier, that red carpet, everything ready for you when I get up there. And I appreciate the knowledge, the stories and everything. And if I can get one last week rolling, I would appreciate that big time.
Well, you just make sure that you keep all your fans and all your listeners, make sure that they go to Burt Watson for real. I use one name on all 4 sites, baby. Burt Watson for real for anything. And as long as you come and follow my site, you'll always know that it's your night, your fight. You need to go get it right. And you know when it's time to roll, it's time to roll. When it's time to roll, you know what that means, baby. We rolling! Yeah!
Burt, thank you so much.
Night long.
Woo!
Yeah.
Thank you, Burt. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Boom.
Oh, my God. That was